This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1871. Honestly, we forgot to do an intro. So, here's a whole bunch of geek talk with Brian, Peter, Shane, Pants, and now with more Kevin.
What's up?
We got a visitor.
What's up, man?
Hey, nice surprise. Peter, you sneaky devil.
Here comes Brian.
Hello.
There's Shane.
Hi-ho.
Shane, we have a guest.
Hello, Mr. Kevin.
How you doing, Shane?
Good, how are you?
Very good, thanks.
Look at all your ugly faces.
Yeah, look at
I don't know.
Same shit, different day.
Pants, you good?
I'm fine. I'm just, I don't want to start the conversation because otherwise I'll start talking about the Phillies.
Oh, yeah, the Phillies.
They won.
God.
They won.
Boy, I did miss I was there weren't they there for 2008 and 2009, right?
Yes.
I was there right in the heart of Broad and Snyder when all those people were coming down from the stadium. And whichever year they won, it was like mayhem. Because I lived
2008, yeah.
Yeah, I lived like 2 blocks from that.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Intersection. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some videos of like during the previous series of a mile away from the stadium, the fans, you could hear them just screaming from a mile away.
There was a video that I saw, I think it was on Facebook, of a guy who lived a mile away from the stadium when they won this last game. And you could hear him screaming like crazy.
Oh, yeah. Total celebration all the way down to City Hall, people climbing the lampposts.
I never get that climbing the lamppost crap.
You have to grease them so they don't do that, but they still climb them anyway.
That'll work. My roommate and I, my first roommate when I lived there, her and I got randomly invited to some doctor's house during this thing who lived right off of Broad Street in one of these houses where it was like a converted whatever. Like it used to be maybe like an old car repair shop, or it just had that kind of feel to it, right? But converted and open. On the outside, you were like, what is this creepy place? On the inside, it was like, I just walked into a mansion. What's going on in South Philly? And all because we gave him a beer or something on the street. And then he was like, come on, we're going to celebrate in here. And we're like, what are we doing here? But it was awesome.
That's the best thing to do, is have the outside of your house look like complete shit,
yeah.
so no one wants to rob it, and then the inside is beautiful, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Gosh, what was it? Oh my God, what's his name? He was in Breakfast Club. He's Martin Sheen's son, Emilio Estevez. Him and Mick Jagger's Free Jack movie. Yeah. There's a scene where they have that. It's totally dilapidated until you get like through a secret wall, and then there's just gorgeous mansion inside in this dystopian future.
Well, anyway, game 1 starts tomorrow, so go Phillies.
How are you, Kevin? Let's talk. How are you?
Let's talk. I'm great. Doing very well, thank you. Living life. Loving it.
Can we ask you a question? You can say whether you don't want to talk about it or not.
What?
What you did with your collection.
Yeah, I don't care. That's cool.
Okay. Yeah.
I went through a rigorous process and ended up sending it to Heritage Comic Auctions down in Texas.
Everything, the whole thing.
Well, they only took the best, which I had inquired with multiple things, and nobody. I had originally pressed everyone, going like, "You take the whole collection, and you don't get anything," and that ended up, not being to my advantage. Nobody wanted to commit. Nobody wants any of that other stuff. I mean, you're talking 50 long boxes of comics, and 65 long boxes of comics, and ultimately they took 13 boxes. And that's all they wanted.
Wow.
Everything else is pretty much worthless in essence. Pennies on the dollar. And they just, for them, it's not worth it. So.
Did you also get your original art through them? I know you had a lot of Sienkiewicz Moon Knight stuff. Was that through Heritage too, or?
That I did through Comic Link because you had introduced. I had sold a couple privately, and then I had asked you about who you thought would be the best, and you recommended Comic Link, and I sold the rest to them. I did inquire to Comic Link then to sell my comics, and then they ghosted me. So,
geez.
He told me he was very interested. I sent him a whole list. I spent 2 days in the attic, cataloging everything. They ghosted me. So,
wow.
So I went to Heritage, and that guy, phenomenal. And I just realized that's it. He told me straight up, and he's very knowledgeable. And he just said, I'm going to take out of your collection is basically, he said, anywhere from 85 to 90% of the value of your collection. So, and it's pretty much legit, it's pretty much nobody, and I've heard this for years, ever since I started putting the inclinations out of selling my collection, is that everybody told me, like, nobody wants full runs anymore. Everybody just wants specific issues. And so they just want to cherry pick. They don't want full collection. They don't want full runs. Nobody's really interested. I don't say no one, but predominant buying audience right now is and has been, they just want specific issues. That's keys. So
did you have any thoughts of selling them yourselves at like a convention or something? Or
I had thought about it, but I mean, 65 boxes of comics to lug around, and what am I going to end up selling it for?
Okay.
And then you got to go through the whole rigmarole of pricing everything and
haggling and
Well, and then so subsequently with Heritage, I also sent them all of my statues. What else did I send them? I sent them other collectibles and stuff. So that was another key point, is that they took some of that stuff.
Wow.
Now, when you say you sent them, did you have to palletize a lot of this stuff?
Yeah, I took everything. I ended up taking it over to Fortnite and ended up making pallets and crates and crated it up, and then ended up shipping it down to them.
Wow.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Good old Fortnite.
Yeah, good old Fortnite. So yeah, I had leftover plywood and stuff. They gave me skids, and I just went in there and made 2 big pallets. It comes out of your collection, whatever your sales are, it comes out of your you're off the top. But yeah, I mean, trucking company came and we forklifted on there and sent it down, and
get out. Wow.
Yeah, that's how you gotta do it.
But overall, were you pleased with the experience and what you got out of it? Because I'm kind of similar. Oh, you good? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't be more pleased. They sold. I mean, I sent that stuff to them. It's going on 2 years now.
Okay.
Is when I shipped it, but they didn't start selling stuff until last year. And they started selling, I mean, they CGC'd a bunch of stuff. And that's the nice thing about going with someone like that, is that they'll go through and pull out what he thinks are worthwhile things. And then they send it all to CGC. And because you're going through them, you get a 20% discount off
that's what I heard. Yeah.
The CGC fee. And obviously they have the market to be able to sell the stuff and get the, try to optimize your gains.
Wow.
So it saves you a lot of time and effort, and so to me, that's value as far as I was concerned, considering everything else that I had to do, to move.
Yeah.
And there's no way I was moving 65 boxes of comics again.
I can't even imagine.
No.
Yeah.
My knees are shot just at 35. Why just key issues now? Like, why is the collector mark? Is it because of the movies and the TV show? Like,
I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with the movies. It's just the fact that it's just, the collectors nowadays, and have been, like I said, this has been expressed to me for probably 10 years now. It's just that, especially with CGC, these serious collectors, if you have serious books, worth value, they want to try to get the highest grade and slabbed, and that's what they're more interested in. It's just that the runs are just not,
it's like a race.
desirable. Yeah. So
bragging rights for like,
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I mean, you can go into certain books. I mean, they just sold the Hulk 181 this week, a CGC one, but who wants the rest of the Hulk issues? You know what I mean? Other than the obvious, early ones, Silver Age, so, they're a dime a dozen, so, I mean, that's just how, collectors are, what they're interested in anymore. That's just what I've been explained as the market. That's the general market.
Well,
somebody's pizza's done.
Any collector video that I see on YouTube or whatever, it's always just slab books hanging on a wall or boxes of them.
Right. And that's pretty much it. Everybody, like you'll see it on eBay. You'll see retailers selling lots, here's 10 boxes of Marvel stuff, and you bid on it and that's it, so,
wow.
Yeah, that was that. And then I ended up, I don't know how many, I forgot how many boxes I had, but I had magazine boxes and short boxes, but all my trades went to Golden Eagle. All my trades and hardcovers, which ended up being all but 1,000 books. So I worked out a deal with them. Because again, what am I going to do? I mean, try to set up at a show. I mean, that was probably another almost van full of books, So, I mean, to try to take that to a show, I would have had to have like 2 vehicles to take all that shit, so, and then to price it all out and try to sell it and do all that. And it's a lot of time and effort and energy. So.
And for Golden Eagle and what you're talking about, it was probably worth it for them to get stock for their clientele.
Well, and that's why I proposed it to Scott. I approached him and said, look, here's my experience. I've been collecting, I've been doing trades predominantly for, over a decade. And what I've seen going to IDEs and other places like that, a lot of them, have half off trades, half off cover price, used trades. And that's what I would buy, because they're still in great condition and, you're paying half off cover. So that's what I said to him. I was like, you could set up a section of just trades. And a lot of the trades that I have are out of print, so I was like, sell them for half off cover, and let's, and we made a deal of sharing profit. So.
Well, I think
that was a huge load off my back.
I think every comic book store should get into the used trade and hardcover thing. Like that used bookstore in Gently Used Books, out in like Birdsboro, is that it? Whatever. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah, down that way.
Their policy is super simple. They sell every book at half of the price on the book, right? So if it's a paperback from 1963 that was $1.95, it sells for $1. If it's the new version of the paperback that sells for $9, it's $4.50, right? There's no like scribbled prices in the front cover. It's just half of the price of the book cost when it was new.
Yeah.
And they buy your books at half of that cost. So that's it. And then you use your credit because they don't buy them from you. They give you credit to the store. There's no cash exchanged. But you can only spend your credit for up to half of the cost of a book. So if I gave them a trade that was $20 on the cover, I get $5 in credit. And if I want to buy, so if I give them 2 trades, I get $10 worth of credit. But I want to buy a book that is $10. I can only use $5 of my credit. I got to give them $5 cash for the other half. So it's a guaranteed money making. They give me credit, then I've got to spend it. Otherwise, I gave them books for free. But to spend it, I have to spend real cash too.
Oh, wow.
So they're guaranteed. It's a beautiful system. Like everybody wins and it's easy. The only thing they have to do to decide is, do we actually want this trade or do we have 17 of this one and no, take it back, or we'll donate it to the library for you, right? That's what they do. They just chuck everything that they don't need.
Right.
And then you just go in your account and you have cash, you have credit, and then you can spend it, but you got to spend money to use your credit. It's a brilliant system and it would work beautifully for every comic book store. Like
just like anything else. I mean, the trade market has gone, crazy itself. I mean, I like to get some of those epic collections, from Marvel to pick up a run of something that I'd like to have, collected in a trade. Some of those have been, but it's like they're out for like 2 months or something like that. And next thing you know, you see them on eBay and you can't get one for less than $100. And then what Marvel finally got smart and they started putting second printings out. so gives you the opportunity to get it at cover price again. But they hadn't done that for a couple of years. So if you didn't pre-order it or get it as soon as it came out, you were going to pay, if you really wanted to, you would pay $50 to $100 or sometimes more. I've seen some on eBay for $124 for an Epic collection. Nothing, it's not even 5 years old, but I guess because of the print run and the demand, supply and demand, and they never altered their system. So, but now, like I said, in the past, I guess, year or so, they've started to rerun, and reprint and release them again. So that way it gives people the opportunity. Because I was going to buy the John Romita Jr. and Ascenti Daredevil one run, and he hemmed and hawed, and then I finally, all right, I'm going to get this, and it was $124. That's the cheapest I could find it.
Wow. And
it was only out for a couple months. So I was like, well, I ain't getting that. And then finally last year they re-released it, I think in like March of this year, I should say. And I pre-ordered it obviously and got it for, less than cover. But yeah, so I mean, even that's haywire, so
yeah.
So that's, substantiates and supports the, the half off trade market, there's a market there. So I've always gone to IDEs. I mean, I've been going to IDEs since 1986, 87, and they've always had that. And that's the first thing I would go to. I mean, obviously back in the late 80s, I was still doing my runs and stuff. So I would go there, a big freaking wall behind the counter and, collect issues, and get the key issues that I needed to fill runs and stuff with. But I always went to their used trades and bought something.
Yeah.
And tried things that I had never read before. Because, what's the risk, Get a $15 trade, it's half off, and, so pay $7-8 for a trade and try it and read it. If you don't like it, whatever, sell it, get rid of it.
Yeah.
I love when you find those trades. There's a store in Delaware. I forget what the heck it's. I think it might be called like the Comic Shop or something in Delaware. And they had, pretty sure I picked up an Avengers Forever hardcover trade there for like half off because they said it was damaged. And I was like, I don't see where it was damaged. I think it had one of those marker lines, like
on the bottom.
Yeah. So from whatever store that comes from. And then Brave New Worlds down in Old City in Philly, they had a hardcover of Contest of Champions. Again, in like a half off bin. And I was like, okay. So I was like, sure, yeah, I'm going to buy that. That's perfect. Love that. Love finding cheap stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of shows that we used to go to, $5 trades.
Sure.
Were very prominent in, dealers' booths.
Yeah. When Wizards first started and we'd go down to Philly for those or the Baltimore cons, $5 trades, man. Yeah. That was a sweet spot to find that.
You guys hit your 50-cent and dollar boxes. I was hitting $5 trade.
Brian, what'd you do to your arm? What happened to your hand? Your wrist?
Oh, it's just carpal tunnel. It flares up once in a while. And I just have to put this little thing on. So while I'm working, my hand doesn't scream at me in pain.
Oh, you like put your hand up to your head and I was like, he's turning into a Terminator or something.
Yeah.
Cyborg. Yeah.
Work.
Now you say it hurts,
I thought it was
or does
technology or something,
or does it go numb?
No, it hurt, Shane. But then it didn't hurt for like a year, and I forget all about it. And then last week I was like, ow, my wrist is hurting again. Oh shit! All right, I'll wear this thing for 2 weeks, and then I'll forget about it again.
I had that in my elbow actually.
Here we go. Old geek speak.
Old talk.
Old geek speak is coming.
I used to get tennis elbow every once in a while, and then I ended up getting it one. It wouldn't go away, and then I went to the doctor, and they said you can get carpal tunnel in your elbow just like your wrist.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, it's the same setup. It's the exact same setup.
It's from lifting all those comic boxes.
Yeah, no shit. So.
My sister's moving her flower shop. She bought a building out in Sinking Spring. And,
get out.
Yeah. Near the old Mac.
In Sinking Spring.
On 724. On 724. There's like a Mac, temp work. Like
a temp agency.
It's a temp agency. Thank you. Jesus Christ. Why is that so hard? Anyway, the point. Kevin, you'd appreciate this. So she has a worker, and he was doing a cement ramp and little mini, level for the doorway.
Mm-hmm.
And got a little cement mixer thing and throwing in bags of cement. Like the first round, they got 20 bags of cement, tossing them in. It's like making spinach, right? You get this much spinach, but really it comes out to be like that much. You got 20 bags of cement and it's like only this much. So I was like, okay, we got to go get some more cement bags. Those cement bags are 80 pounds each.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's like a white dwarf star because they're really compact, right? And it's like, this can't be that heavy. And then you go to pick it up and you're like, holy shit. We did like 3 rounds of that. I was like, I'm done. After I was like, my knees can't take it. 80 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
A white dwarf star.
You know what I mean, though, don't you?
Yeah.
What an analogy.
Oh, my God.
Oops.
Anyway.
Yeah, so that's what's happening. So they're still selling my stuff. In fact, actually, they just emailed me some new items that they're putting up for auctions starting the end of this month. So probably for like the next 4 weeks, I have stuff coming up on the block. So they still have some comics to sell, and they still are selling. Like he would put. They sold a lot of the key stuff last year, comic wise. So they still have comics to sell, and then he'll sprinkle in like a couple statues or some collectibles, with the same thing. So they haven't sold much in this past year, but now he's getting back to it again. So I still have stuff, that still needs to be liquidated for there. So it's a nice flow of income, so to speak.
Yeah.
They mail you a check, and it gives you a record of everything. It's all whatever is included in that lot and how much it went for, how much they take out for their fee. So it's basically they do everything. You just collect a check. So
Pants, you going to try that?
It's on my list of options, but work, time, laziness. I don't know if I'll get around to it anytime soon. Just being honest.
Because you probably have DC keys that.
Yeah.
I do, not very many and not in the best shape. I mean, I might even have within reach here. I'm not going to reach out. I think I have the Detective 233, the first Batwoman that I got at a Golden Eagle sale for $175 like 15 years ago. It's probably, I don't know, make like if I get a number on maybe a 4.0, whatever. I don't know what it's going for right now. But that's what I actually might want to hold on to. But yeah, well, we keep talking about this, and I keep going hand and on. It just gets me angry and angry. So I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm just sitting in this room, look at these boxes, and nothing's going to happen. I can keep talking and talking. Nothing's going to happen because it's
That's like that first step.
We've been saying this for years, but why don't you have us over one day? Like it would. I know your house is a mess. It's embarrassing. You're a shit. Whatever. I don't care about any of that shit, Pants. Just give me some boxes and I'll start sorting in piles, right? Like we would all do that. Like, we'll get some pizza and we'll do it. I helped Jamie years ago organize it.
I understand maximum occupancy at Casa de Pants is maybe about 1. So
we'd have to rent a van, like a U-Haul van, cheap U-Haul van for the day so that you could take boxes so we could do it like in there. And then put them back
inside the van.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Till July inside the van. Sure.
Take a couple boxes in the van, do the organization there, and then swap it out and then bring the next ones in just so we have room. Your porch is probably fine, right? I know you're in the middle of Reading.
Porch? What's this porch? I have no porch.
Oh, I don't know.
I have steps.
Steps, yeah.
I've never been to your house.
Yeah, we're a little taller than 5-year-olds. We're not going to fit all on the steps.
First, apparently, we need to take some shit out, and then there'll be room for a couple people.
Yes. Again, this is all fine and dandy, but it's all speculative. So
I could see getting a U-Haul van, parking it in the street, and everyone's complaining because they can't get around, and all these people are walking around. Go, what are these fools doing in the middle of the street?
You live like on just a one-way street or something? Is there's like no room for?
No, I there's a street. There's it's 2 lane. I mean, two ways is parking, but I have a spot in the back of my house. But it's the city of Reading, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
There's a fire hydrant in front of my house for one thing.
Oh, is there? I didn't realize that. I don't know if I remember that. Oh, yeah, that hinders parking.
But again, I park in the back of my house, which is fine. So,
Well, look, when you're ready, I'll come down and help you.
okay, that's
offer is there.
I'll have it on record. But
Okay.
Exhibit A.
It is daunting, Pants. I know the feeling and I understand what you're saying because it took me a while. I knew I had to do it and I kept putting it off and I kept avoiding it because I was just like, man. And I never had anything updated catalog wise. So I knew that was the first thing. As soon as I started inquiring with anyone about selling it, they were going to, what's your list? And I didn't have one to give them. So.
Yeah, that I do have. I do have a list. I do have a list in a database.
That's half the battle, man, to be honest with you. Because I mean, I did my lists. I went through all my boxes. It took me 2.5 days to go through all my boxes and make a list.
That's pretty good for 65 long boxes, 2.5 days. Wow.
Well, I mean, the key that helped me a lot is because I had a lot of runs. So that helped.
Yeah.
You know, I had completed runs. So but again, that was, maybe a quarter of the collection. So, but I would just go down through a box and, hit a title, type it in, and then hit the numbers and go to the next, just kept chugging away. But it was 2.5 days of work. There's no two ways about it.
Wait, I'm real curious now. Of all of us, and we could probably include Jamie too. Have we all touched each other's collection, moved collections? Like, you know what I mean? Like, have we all done that at some point?
I don't think anybody's been anywhere near my stuff. Thank goodness.
I saw Pants when me and the boys were over that one time. I saw the collection, but never helped move anything. But I helped Kevin once. I know I helped Brian, Peter. Peter, you and I, we went to New York to pick up yours one time, I think.
Yeah, Kevin did that too.
Moving into my house, one or both of them, somebody was over helping.
And I remember moving Kevin into or out of and into. Remember, you used to live in Shillington, and then we were up in the attic and brought some stuff down, and then moved.
Yeah, the third floor was finished in that home in Shillington, and that's where I had everything up there.
Yeah.
And then Brian helped me move it out of there. Did you help move it out?
I remember going to West Reading.
Oh, he helped move it in, right? You helped move West Reading too.
I helped West Reading. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember.
I can't remember if I helped. You lived up on 183 at one time too, right off of there.
Yeah, I lived out behind. Yeah, between Robinsonian and Burnville, off of Burnville.
I can't remember if I helped move that down.
I just remember taking the statues up into the house in West Reading. It's like, where's this stuff gonna go?
Oh yeah. Thankfully, that had a walk-up attic, which was kind of unusual, but thank God. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my house had a walk-up attic. The one that I had in Wernersville, that was huge. My attic was huge up there, so I had everything up there.
Has anybody moved yours, Brian, at any point? Or
well, I sold. I don't know if anybody helped move from. I don't think so, because I moved from like the house when we did Crusaders, and I was in that little house next to my parents, and then I moved it to my grandmother's across the street. So like, I just was wheeling stuff, carrying boxes across the alley by myself. Like, and then I sold most of my collection before we moved here. Like, I only kept 4 long boxes when we moved here. So, and now I want to get rid of all those and like have like maybe 1 box. Because I was just like, what? I just actually we're redoing our bedroom, so we had to move everything out because we're gutting it, right? So everything has to be out. So I moved the comics up into the attic, and I couldn't lift the long box up into the attic, so I had to take everything out, put the empty box up in the attic, and then hand a bunch of groups of comics up to Clara, who would take them and put them back in the box in the right order, right?
Child labor.
And and as I was looking at them, I'm like, I kept these 4 long boxes when I moved to Philly. It was 10 years ago. How many times have I opened up those long boxes? And like basically 0, right? Like a few times I pulled out one thing that wanted to read or whatever. And I was like, why do I still have these? Like, what good are they doing for me? Now, some of them were just, maybe I wanted to reread them once, or they had a little sentimental value. And there's like, I have the first appearance of Gambit. I keep thinking I'm going to get that slab so I can sell it, because I paid $1.25 for it when it came out off the stand. Maybe I'll pay $30 or whatever it costs for CGC. I don't even know anymore. And then maybe I'll sell it for $300. So maybe I'll make, $200 on the whole deal after shipping and stuff. But it's like, is it even worth it for $200? Should I just give it to somebody? I don't, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
But that's like the only comic I have that's worth money. Probably. I just remembered that I have Spider-Man #1 signed by McFarlane. Remember when they like sold those at the actual comic book stores? But how many did he sign? Probably 1 million of them, right? Like what the hell? I mean, there's a lot of them. So what is that worth? $40? What the hell? What am I don't need.
That was a million. Yeah, I don't know how many he signed, but I think that run was 1 million print runs.
Oh,
So
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
so. Yeah.
But I mean, how many did he sign? 10,000. It's not exactly rare.
No.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like what how much is that worth, right? Maybe it's worth more than I think, but it doesn't feel like it's probably worth anything,
I've sold things over the years. The only thing I wish I would have kept for now is Amazing Spider-Man 298, 99, and 300. But I still, for when I sold them, 12 years ago, I made good money on them even back then. But now they're astronomical with Venom being popular and all that stuff right now. But it's not really a regret, but yeah, it would have been nice to hold on to it and sell it now. But I was happy with selling it back then too.
Plus, don't you need like for signatures? Don't people want some kind of
Proof.
certificate or proof? Or
Yeah.
something like
Picture that you were actually there,
Witness.
certificate of
Yeah.
authenticity or something.
Well, here's on eBay that Spider-Man #1, 9.8, signed by McFarlane. Listing. Now, this doesn't mean it's going to sell. $4,900.
Wow.
Maybe I should get that CGC.
I mean,
Maybe
let me put odds on that right now. You want to put money down? I'll bet you that does not sell for 4,000.
now I do think if you send that to CGC, they will authenticate the signature.
Are you looking on eBay, or is that what you're
Yeah, I
looking?
was just looking on eBay.
Well, go down and hit completed auctions.
I'm trying to find that right now. Right.
Yeah, hit completed auctions and then see what some have sold for. That's what I always do when I sell stuff on eBay.
I'm pretty
Where the
sure
hell
I
do you
had
find
like
that?
I found like a Valiant issue in the back issue bin that had Bob Layton or Jim Shooter's signature in gold, and you could clearly tell it was like just they probably were doing hundreds of copies and it's just random there. And it was probably Secret Defenders #1 or Secret. What was that issue? Secret whatever from Valiant, or maybe I'm thinking of something else.
It wasn't secret, wasn't it? It was a crossover thing, wasn't it? Like,
Or maybe it was Secret Defenders #1 from Marvel. Whoever one of the creators was there. Who wants that? Who wants that? And
Yeah.
who wants it signed? Nobody.
Do I have to be signed in? I don't see any completed orders.
We need a podcast where Brian just goes to websites and, and evaluates.
Now it
the
seems.
Yeah. Evaluates how they're set up.
I love
Well,
it.
shit. If this book, even if it's, I'm assuming it's not worth 5,000, but if it was worth $500, I'll take $500. What the hell?
yeah. I mean, basically, if that's kind of what your information you're getting at this point, I mean, yeah, even if, like you said, sell it for $500, if that's realistic, what's wrong with $500?
Yeah.
Because I bought that thing and I put it into a Mylar, and it's literally been in that Mylar since 1990. Never taken it out, never touched
Wow.
it. It is probably a 9.8, 9.6. Like there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
Pants, who are the customers for Heritage? Have you done any of that research? Like who's buying those damn things?
I don't know specifically, but it's just people who have way too much money, and God bless them for it. Because I don't look at the comic books as much as look at the artwork, and it's like, wow. I mean,
Yeah.
there was I texted you that photo of that last Greg LaRocque splash page of that I was looking for, and it went up for auction last Wednesday, and like an idiot, I decided to go for it. I was the underbidder. And the way heritage auctions work, unlike eBay and Comic Link, where they are timed and end at that time, Heritage has a time that it ends, but then it goes to live bidding, whether it's live with an auctioneer or through a computer, where it's, what do I have? What do I have? Who's got it? Going. Yeah.
Huh.
So I went for a while, but I tapped that at $2,300.
Wow.
And it could have kept going. It's like, I had to wait a minute. What am I doing here? I made this stop. So
Wow.
Do you know how much it went for?
Well, yeah, $2,400 plus
Oh.
20%. Yeah, 'cause I was the underbidder.
Oh.
Had I kept going, I mean, I was bidding back and forth from 1,500 up to 2,300. Again,
Wow.
not counting the built-in 20%. And it's like I had to let me tap out. This guy clearly wants it more than I do, and it's like, and then crazily enough, 2 hours later on eBay, I think it was the same lot or person. I got 2 consecutive pages from that same issue. We're talking Flash 62, which I'd forgotten was the first Mark Waid written Flash.
Yeah.
This is the year 1 Born to Run. So I got 2 consecutive pages from that same issue where that gorgeous splash at the end where Wally gets zapped by the lightning bolts. 2 consecutive just general pages, but it's when Wally first meets Barry Allen, as Barry Allen. And I was happy to get those 2 consecutive pages for $160 combined, basically. So
Oh, wow.
$80 a page versus $2,500. It's like, okay, I'm happy. No costume, but it's anyway.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I don't know who's buying these books, but it sure as hell's got people with deep pockets.
Well, I mean, I think it was in the past, 3 years now, Heritage, they broke records for each, Amazing Fantasy 15, Batman, Detective Comics 27.
Yeah, you're right. You keep looking at those key books are just, there's always a market for them for people with deep pockets, and God bless them, but that's just not me.
I mean, millions. You're talking millions.
Yeah. They're not screwing around.
No.
And that's something I can't even fathom.
Yeah, and again, it takes 2 to tango. When you have going, who gives me 1,000? Give me 2,000, 3,000. Like I was watching live the auction for the Secret Wars number 8 page where you see the black costume for the first time.
Yeah,
that was going back and forth, and it got to $3 million because 2 people really wanted it. Had it been a timed auction, who knows we wouldn't have gotten that high, but they kept bidding, and it's just,
wow.
It was great to watch. It really wasn't must-see TV, so to speak, but
like vicariously participate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, I can dream if I had imaginary, like when Shane asked the last question, what's kept you from buying pages, Pant? Is it lack of, no, it's just lack of money. It's not what's out there. It's like, there's so much stuff out there, but I'm sorry, you got me started. I was just watching Heritage Auctions today. Somebody has put up a crap ton of DC JSA art that's coming up in about 2 months. I'm talking the first All-Star Comics 58 cover.
Wow.
A whole bunch of All-Star Squadron, Last Days of the JSA, a lot of JLA, JSA crossover art, including a bunch of pages from Justice League of America 22.
Get out.
Like the first one, it's like, oh man. So I'll be watching that one, just keep my hand, make sure I just turn off the no bidding button so I'm not bidding on it by accident.
Well, there's some things that over the years we've all been able to see for one reason or another, certain pages, certain covers, and you just I'm excited just to hold it or look at it, and it's 3 inches away from my face. Ooh, that's cool enough. Okay, take it away. I'm good.
Now I have all the images of the art I can save and look at it in the future. Ooh, that's good. Make your own artist edition of these books.
Right. Should take it and sneeze on it. See, sometimes I think it's it must be, especially that older artwork. I mean, we talked about it last time too, people who randomly come across Mike Sikowski early Justice League or early Kirby or whatever in the 70s or 80s or early 90s before it was really sort of valuable. But then I also wonder how much of that stuff has been passed down from, I don't know, some editor that no longer works at DC or Marvel who walked
Julian
away.
Schwartz did that all the time in letter columns.
He used to give artwork, right? Artwork away,
Famously gave away the cover to Flash 123 to I think Don Thompson of the old Comic Buyer's Guide.
Oh, wow.
Back in the day. Of course, it's now ended up at Metropolis Comics in Europe. I've actually seen it in person a few years ago. Got a picture with it. Right there it is. So,
that's cool.
I'm happy it exists.
Right. Yeah. But some of that artwork is probably just people who are like, oh, I'm done working here. I'm just going to take you know, I have all this original artwork that was supposed to go somewhere, archived, and never does. And then it winds up on some of these websites, you know. Who knows?
Wow.
Such a fascinating market.
Yes.
It is. That it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Want to talk some Werewolf by Night?
Ow.
Yeah.
We all watch it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
Fun.
fun.
Really good. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
I'm all for barely more than an hour show, concise, get it in there, introduce a whole bunch of muckety mucks, and then we're done.
Yeah.
The way it was shot with the black and white,
Beautiful.
with the that fight scene with the slow pan, it was shot beautifully, and I didn't know who most of the characters were, but I still enjoyed it immensely. And when that one, I don't know if you can say what thing sort of showed up, you know, I was like, ooh, wow, I know that.
Yeah. I was the same way, Pants. I didn't know any of those characters, but I had no problem following the story, and it was beautifully shot. I enjoyed it from the first placard of special presentation. I'm like, oh, that's cool, right through to the end. It was awesome.
Wasn't that like the way CBS or ABC used to open their show?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it is one of the best things Marvel's put out, MCU put out in a while. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Even when the whole werewolf thing was happening, and it's shadowed in like a very classic shot kind of, I don't know, 50s horror film way, it was really cool. It was really well done.
That for me, that's, I love all those Universal horror movies, all those old black and whites, and then those characters I knew because, Marvel, I used to buy, get the old magazines from the 70s and Ulysses Bloodstone, and those stories were in there, Buscema artwork and all that stuff. And then they tried doing The Daughter, and that never took off. I was hoping it would, and I had read a lot of the Man things. I got them from Lem one time. That was when he used to take collections of, runs of books and put them in like one bag and sell them for you at a price. And it was like I had a light week that one time, so I ended up buying all the issues of Man Thing at one time. He had it in a pack, and I was like, what the hell? I'll read these, So yeah, there's a lot of things in there for me that really connected, and I thought that was brilliantly done. Great, I like a one and done thing. That was, I think for them, they've even said now that's, they're obviously embracing that more as well now. And that seems to be going forward, a new, kind of thing to tap into and utilize more frequently. So
I hope so.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yep.
Yeah. Who's having sex? What's that noise?
That any of your business?
Hands on the table.
Did you? Anybody else hear that?
Yeah, I hear it. I don't know where it's coming from.
It's probably me. I have my windows open, and I live right along the river and the canal, and elevated railroad tracks is there.
Hear that?
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was like,
So
who's
you're hearing the elevated rail.
Got it. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Elevated rail.
How badly did we want the one character in that show just to be Blade? Like, it really should have been Blade.
Yeah.
I really thought that was gonna.
I did too.
Even just a hint. Kind of like a little bit more than they did with Eternals. That. There was just a voice. I thought maybe we might get a glimpse. But I'm not. It wasn't certainly. It didn't, disappoint me that they didn't. But it would have been neat to, kind of establish that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, with that approach, I think it obviously gives them a lot more flexibility and willingness to try doing stuff like that and see what a follow up to that. So
Even if it's a yearly Halloween thing, I'll take it.
Yeah. Or like, it would be interesting, almost like the way DC and Marvel do those one-shot specials whenever they end an event, and then they want to kick off, like, here's DC Rebirth, here's Marvel Now .1, like do a special that kind of either wraps up a phase but is also hinting at the next phase, and then do it as a way to introduce a smaller character that can't maybe hold a whole series or a movie, but certainly for 90 minutes, why not? You know, I think that'd be great. And they get, because we got Werewolf by Night, you got Man Thing, you got Bloodstone. What else was there? I mean, there were other things in that too, like kind of hinted at other.
Yeah, like the other characters that were running around, you know, in the competition weren't really established characters that I'm aware of. But
right. But you could certainly you could just tease so many areas of the Marvel universe, and I thought they did. Yeah. I thought that's what they did well with that.
I mean, I think the only reason you didn't get Blade is because that's in production hell, you know, and has been, and still continues to be. So I don't even know if that's going to happen. I'd like to, because the actor, you know, that they have cast for it. But I mean, the director just left again, you know, so there's
I saw that
stalled, you know, so. And he's getting frustrated, so I wouldn't be surprised if the next thing you read that he's gone too.
And I know they have the Guardians Christmas kind of special coming up too, which will, based on this, I think that'll be just as much fun. Very different way, but I think there's potential for that to just be as fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just love that they're continuing to be totally okay with experimenting with different styles and again, like having fun. You can tell that the writers, the creators, the actors, they're all having fun, and then we as the viewers are having a tremendous amount of fun as well.
Yep.
Like, you know, She-Hulk was just incredible. It was just all the fun you could possibly have. That was that show. And then Werewolf by Night, same thing, like totally different kind of fun, but just as much fun.
Yeah.
And it's like so often TV shows and stuff are just like, it's a formula, boom, boom, boom. And some people accuse the Marvel movies of being very like formulaic, right? But then you get things like Thor: Love and Thunder, and then you have the TV shows where every single TV show is different. And I'm just really, it makes me very happy that I happen to be a Marvel fan, right?
Yeah. And I always was more of a DC fan, but I absolutely love what they're doing with their movies and TV shows. Hands down, they're kicking Warner Brothers' butt all over the place with, like you said, Brian, all their experimentation. Every show is different. They're not afraid to try something. And if it doesn't work, they might not do it again, but I can't think of anything that really hasn't worked yet.
Right. I mean, these things aren't, you know, I'd say in this last phase, which I think that ends with Black Panther, I think this phase 4 ends. And
it might.
What's coming out? There's something coming out in March.
Quantumania.
Yeah, Ant-Man. Yeah, so that's supposed to kick off, I think, the next phase. But so this phase, you really got that feel for the experimentation. You know, it was just so many different things, you know, not very well-known characters. You know, everything else had been wrapped up at that point. So this whole phase has been very experimental, I think. And some things have paid off better than others, and some things weren't that great. But
yeah, and you're getting to a level where you've got, I don't know, 25, 30 movies and all these TV shows. You can't rank everything in the top 5, so not everything's going to be a hit. But there's not one thing that I've watched that I've regretted watching. It's all. I
mean, like the Disney Plus thing has opened up the opportunity for them to tell other stories of other characters that they don't have to invest, you know, $300 million to tell a story. And now these one-offs, these one-shots have obviously opened up another, you know, realm of opportunity. So,
well, what you said about Blade too, I think the thing that the TV show or the streaming shows and these one-offs do well is, depending on what kind of schedule, I have to imagine they're not necessarily doing like a movie schedule. They don't have to, as an actor, you don't have to be committed to something that takes 3 years before it even sees, like, how long is the actor for Blade? When was he announced as Blade? That was probably last year.
Oh, it was at least a year ago.
At least. I think that's 2 years ago.
Yeah, it might be.
And like, we're still not even, right. So like, that's what I mean. The journey to get to a movie is sometimes obviously longer than it is for, say, a show like Werewolf by Night or whatever. So now I think you do. I think they're smart. You put your money into that. You put your energies into that. You get a faster return because they come out faster. You get more characters on the plate. You see which ones work, which ones are going to need like, which ones appeal to the audience, because then they're like, okay, we can now spin this one off maybe into a TV show or maybe even do a movie as well, you know, or the character could show up in a movie. So that's the thing I think I appreciated. Like I really liked the actress who played the Bloodstone character because she was old. She's older, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that, you know, Hollywood is not friendly to older actresses, but she was great. And
she was.
You know,
Yeah, I recognized her right away, and I've seen her in a lot of stuff, but she's never been, you know, a starring actress, you know.
And we realized that it wasn't Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones, Brian.
Yes. I verified that the night I said that. I checked.
I know, but still.
That's
In that 1 second she was in that preview, it looked just like her. You know?
Yeah.
like what you said, Peter. I mean, but you think about it, like you get into these Disney Plus shows, and on the average, that's about 4.5 hours worth of content.
oh,
you
they're
know?
movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, I mean, you know, so I mean, like, you know, so you're saying that you're not, you know, takes on the average a good year and a half to put a movie together, to film it, you know, all the pre-production, post-production, you know, an hour and a half to two, I mean, a year and a half to 2 years. The TV shows, they've been turning around quicker, and yet it's more content.
Yeah.
You know, it's like 3 times, well, not maybe 3 times, but, you know, at least 2 times the length of content. And they're able to film them and get them out in a year or less than a year.
And especially talking about Disney Plus in particular, if they start doing things like what The Mandalorian's doing in the volume, that kind of new technology in there where they're able to film with all these lights and backdrops that look real, but they're all projected on high quality stuff. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
What did you think of I should really have the cast list up. I feel terrible. I don't know these actors' name. What do you think of the guy who played Jack Russell?
Oh my God, I love him
Werewolf.
so much. He's in Mozart in the Jungle, an Amazon Prime show where he plays a conductor. It's about a New York symphony, and that show, you got to watch it. I think it was only 3 seasons, and then it ended. Comedy, half-hour show, you know, so they're quick. It's like 10 episodes. It's not a huge time commitment. What a great show. I love that guy so much, probably just because his character was so great. I'm not saying that the actor's mediocre or anything. I'm just saying his character was so lovable on Mozart in the Jungle that I will like him in any role he ever plays for the rest of his life.
Gael Garcelle Bernal.
I couldn't place him. I mean, I've seen him before. I recognized him as soon as I saw him, but I couldn't tell you where I've seen him before, but I recognized him. But I thought he did a great job. I didn't honestly, when I first saw him in the show, I didn't even think he was Jack Russell. I was like, you know, I didn't catch that right away. And they kind of played it that way, I think intentionally too. But I like that in essence. But no, I thought he did a real good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good show.
It was very well, you know, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the guy who wrote it and directed it also did the music. I mean, so you're getting people like that coming in, you know, like, so he came in, you know, and had to commit to doing basically a 1-hour show, and he was able to, you know, flex his creative muscles, and Marvel gave him the opportunity to do so, and it paid off, obviously. So,
Yeah, I think that was his first bigger kind of thing that he did.
Yeah, when I saw the credits going by, and I was like, oh, he did the music too? I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Then you put Harriet Harris in anything, and I'm like, okay, she's great. She was the main priestess.
Yeah.
I love her. She's so much fun. She was good. The only thing, if I had to say anything about it that I wish Marvel would pay a little bit more attention to, when the actress who played Bloodstone, what is her name? Laura Donnelly. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
When you first saw her fight, her very first move was the Black Widow takedown. I was like,
Yeah, I thought that.
Not the only one that thought the same thing.
come on. Can we get some more, you know, can we get different, you know? So that's one of the things I wish they would pay attention to a little bit more, but whatever.
I mean, I have to say, you know, for me, watching that and enjoying it so much, it made me wish that they would have waited to do Moon Knight after this. Like, have him show up as like a little cameo thing, you know, and set it off. And I thought this would be great to do, like set him up as like a pulp noir type character. And that would be something different and unique that they could have done that. And I think that would have created an opportunity to have that character, you know, in my opinion, better presentation. But so that was obviously on the back of my mind. But other than that,
It's good.
I'm very happy. I hope they follow through with it. I hope they do some more stuff. I mean, I
do too.
I like that old monster stuff. So when that used to appear in the comics as a kid, I used to eat that shit up. The Marvel team up with Spider-Man and Frankenstein monster, and that kind of stuff. I mean, so that stuff was, I look forward to that. So there's a lot of content out there that they explored in those titles and series and stuff. So I could easily see them expanding upon this, and like you said, Shane, maybe do a Halloween special every year.
Yeah. And with all of this, it still ties into everything that comics does: an annual, a special, a one shot, an event, thing, whatever it is. It still all fits right in with that whole mentality that we're all used to.
Right. Live action formats of comics.
Yeah.
And for me, the thing that's like the most comic booky of all is the crossovers, the appearances, the cameos, because it's all Marvel. It's like the Daredevil stuff. It's like, that's how it should be. You just get these people and they're in one or two issues and then they go away again because they got their own thing going on. Like that is what was missing before Disney owned all of it. Right. It's so great. That makes me happy every time that happens.
Yeah. There were people like, well, that's really out of character. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? That was awesome when he showed up.
Yeah.
It was just fun.
As long as it doesn't get, I like it and I enjoy it. And depending on the content or the story, then I like, otherwise I'd like to keep it, somewhat light, you know what I mean? I like to have it happen, but I don't want it all the time. That's my opinion. But.
Yeah. Well, I don't want like for Daredevil's case, I didn't want him in every episode of She-Hulk. That would, I wouldn't have liked that.
Yeah. I like to see him, I like team ups. I always like that kind of stuff. Marvel 2-in-1, and have a character show up and help out, or, they run into something, or there is a underlying storyline that connects and that they both have their own thing going on, but yet it intertwines. That if it seems natural, then fine. I'm all for it. But
they should do that for an animated series instead of What If. They should do Marvel Comics Presents or Marvel Team Up or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you do little half-hour shows and start connect. Because you could do Werewolf by Night and Morbius if they actually owned it, or brought it over from Sony. Like get the monster characters together, or just start doing all kinds of crossovers like that. I think that
would be a great way to introduce new characters.
Sure,
it might be a little on the periphery and be like, will people like this person? You don't have to cast the whole person and do a whole movie with them or whatever.
I'm waiting for Jack of Hearts, man. I need my Jack of Hearts.
Where's my speedball?
Who knows? You never know. With the next Guardians of the Galaxy, you never know. I mean,
it's true.
Adam Warlock is coming in, and who else? You don't know who else is going to be included in that?
Yeah.
That'd be cool, though. Yeah, I think they have so many opportunities. It's great. I mean, I think the animation is something that I'm glad they're doing. What If? I think that's something that for Marvel, DC has always done phenomenal with.
Yeah.
They doing the direct to DVD or the, those animated features were they nailed those. Those were great. Young Justice cartoon and all those. So that's something that I feel that DC excelled at.
Mm-hmm.
And Marvel has not really capitalized on, and now they have with What If, but I would like to see them do more. I would think that would be something that would obviously give them a lot more opportunity to experiment with other characters and try things out without having to invest a lot of money into it.
I think both companies should just do a straight up Saturday morning cartoon with like really great writing, but purposely the animation doesn't need to be like into the Spider-Verse level. Like just go throw back to the old 80s Saturday morning cartoons and just make it a fun, but make it with really great writing so that the point is, they know what they're emulating. And then hopefully it's cheaper and they can get it out fast and do like, Great Lakes Avengers or do, the Bwahaha Justice, like do a funny or I don't know, make it serious. I'd love to see that. I'm dying for like, I don't need my animation to be so amazing. It's great when it, for Into the Spider-Verse and all that, but
but I don't need it.
The current animation style doesn't thrill me, right? Like the whatever the current stuff is. I get it. That's kids love that. But even like Young Justice doesn't even need to be like that. Just totally go back to the old G.I. Joe style, Thundercat style. And just,
there's totally Saturday mornings when I'm cleaning in the house or something, and I'll throw on Disney Plus and watch Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends or X-Men, and then flip over to DC and watch a Batman this or Super Friends that, and take a 2-hour block while I'm doing laundry and whatever in the house. And that's my good old classic Saturday morning cartoon. Usually throw in a Bugs Bunny somewhere, all that. And yeah, that's good old times.
I mean, that's great that we have the, with HBO Max and Disney Plus, that we have that capability to access all of that content that has been elusive for a while, unless, because obviously we're limited to just maybe if they released it on DVD, then we could see it again, I mean, now a touch of a button, we can access all that stuff. So
I used to see on Twitter, parents are like, oh, I miss, my kids don't have that Saturday morning experience. I'm like, yeah, they do. You just go make it. Just make breakfast. And on a Saturday morning, you go, great, here you go. You're going to watch this. And now you're going to watch this. And I mean, they may not like it all, but you can create your own Saturday morning experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't need the network.
Like a 2 or 3 hour block and do a different show every half hour.
Yeah.
And then next week you see the next episodes of each one of them. And
when you want to punish them, make them watch Snorkels. Just
Q-Bert.
Snorks, Q-Bert. The Super Mario Brothers hour. Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. Mr. T and whatever.
Oh boy.
Now, Kevin, you were talking about the hundreds of millions of dollar budgets for these Marvel movies. It did not have a $300 million budget. It was the first episode of Gunsmoke. That was like $8 and a corn dog. Like it cost
$55.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple things that we all wanted to watch. So we'll go into that, and then I don't know, Kevin, if you've seen any of this, but
all right.
So Gunsmoke, yeah. What you say? 1955, but so was the Alfred Hitchcock one.
Yeah,
true.
And it was the Alfred Hitchcock Presents. It was amazing even the level of like how each were shot. You can tell they were both for some very different experience, but also for very different markets as well, probably. But yeah,
I did appreciate the John Wayne opening though in that first episode.
Yep,
that was cool.
Why do you think that was? But why do you think was that just to get people to watch?
Well, yeah, I guess, because I think he was originally, I think he mentioned that he might have been attached to, or at least asked to be Matt Dillon in the TV show. So yeah, he did a nice little promo for it. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it was weird because Kevin was just mentioning about how you have all these things at your fingertips. We live in such a great age right now with streaming and home video and everything. Where you have, if it's available, you can access these things just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 1955, and I mean, we already know this may be just easy to remember, but if you wanted to watch these shows, you had to have a TV, first of all. Not everybody had a TV in 1955.
Yeah.
You had to be in front of the TV at the time the network broadcast that show, or you may never see it again. Yeah. And it's like, we take this stuff for granted, and I love it. You can watch things and, DVR or on demand or whatever. But at that time, you had to be there to see it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Forgive me if I just sort of nostalgia for these kind of things. I don't think that era is necessarily better than right now. It's different. Broadcast TV. First of all, I don't watch broadcast TV much at all right now. But in 1955, you had, sponsors who sort of ruled the day, who made decisions on certain things. And Hitchcock was great. Well, with Gunsmoke first. Gunsmoke was sponsored by like some cigarette companies, and I have the DVDs, and you see there's, James Arness and the guy who plays Doc Adams, Wilburn Stone, having a butt off camera, or him and Amanda Blake, Miss Kitty, smoking and talking about it. It's so weird seeing that stuff. Yeah. And the length of the show. So again, you still have a half an hour block then as now, but the content like Gunsmoke, 26 and a half minutes of content. You watch a network TV half-hour show right now, you get maybe 22 minutes of content.
Oh, if you're lucky.
So I like to get more time to develop things back then, move at a slower pace. May not be for everybody. But yeah, and Gunsmoke, the longest running like network show for like 20 years. Yeah, so this first episode was kind of interesting. I don't think it was the pilot. It was just, another episode that they decided to air first. It was called Matt Gets It. Actually, let me give some statistics. Aired September 10th, 1955, Saturday at 10 o'clock on CBS. We had to be there to watch it, otherwise you wouldn't see it again. And it was the first of 39 episodes of that season. Can you imagine?
Wow.
39 episodes
39.
a season?
Jeez.
I mean, it did 635 episodes altogether over 20 years. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I've been going on long and long, but any other thoughts on the Gunsmoke first episode? Because you guys have never even watched this before, I'm guessing, right?
So I wanted to ask you, no, I hadn't watched. I'm sure I had seen an episode over time somewhere, but I don't remember specifically. But I'm sure I never saw this episode at all. Nothing was familiar. But I did want to ask you, and this I don't know, was the radio show before this, I'm thinking?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I believe William Conrad was Marshall Dillon.
Yep.
And
now,
I think I mentioned they even used a few scripts later on in the TV series from the radio show.
Yep. Which happens a lot from what I learned listening to all these radio shows. From my perspective, I enjoy the radio show more at this point. The radio show was much more fleshed out. I was used to those voices coming through for those characters. So this was a little bit different. It wasn't bad. I can't imagine listening to the radio show like I have, but back then, and then switching to this TV format thing and going, oh, well, that's kind of, I don't know. I like the radio show better, but that's what I've always listened to over the last 3 years is mostly Gunsmoke radio shows.
Oh, nice.
Might have something to do with the radio show gives you a little more imagination because you have to fill in the gaps and stuff.
It's not like they in the TV show you're stopping to look at the scenery and pan around. You don't do that in the radio show. You just hear some narration or go through what they're describing, and it just moves along a lot quicker than the TV show. Now, I'm sure over 20 years it gets a lot better, especially once radio shows die off and all that's left is the TV. But just this first episode was a little bit harder for me to get through, but I still enjoyed the hell out of watching it. It was a lot of fun.
It makes me appreciate the high caliber of acting and directing and stuff that we have now on television, right? Like I know that it's 1955 and I've seen a lot of old stuff. But like you talk about how it was, 27 minutes or 26 minutes or whatever. It's like they could have cut 4 minutes out just by reducing some of the incredibly long pauses between people saying things. Like it's very interesting, right? Because like we also watched the first episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and while also the budget was clearly very small, it took place inside of a trailer almost the entire episode, right? So it was no expense, right? But it hit more. And the acting, you can tell, it was just a different time. The expectations of actors and stuff and the audience receiving that was different. And I understand that. But it was more powerful and more serious and just better, right? For what it was trying to accomplish. And I was just, watching that going, man, I can't imagine sitting in front of the TV and watching that and thinking, this show is going to be great, watching that first episode of Gunsmoke. And then to know that the show was so successful, it's wow. Because now, I just kept thinking, what would that show be like now? There was a scene when they're in the hotel, that final scene, and a guy comes out of his hotel room and he's standing up on the balcony, and you can tell the set was built yesterday. It's brand spanking new. What Western town in 18 something or whatever had perfectly beautiful walls? Maybe the day that the hotel opened, but not anyone that had been in business for a while. It was just and even the hollowness of the sound, right? Like there's just like one microphone in the room and you hear every step. Like that's not Foley work. That's just like the guy walking across the creaky floor and the hollow, it's like so much echo everywhere because there was no like rugs down to absorb sound and sound things behind this that are dampening everything. It was like, they just built a little room and then put a microphone in it and said, go, like hit your mark or whatever. And I was like, man, even a shitty show today has so much better production value than those shows back then. And it was just like so striking. I don't know. I just found it interesting. Like also, I'm just not like a huge Western guy. So like, another gun shootout in the street and like and then the delay and then and the spin and it's like, wow, that was, but I appreciate the show's place in history, but it was definitely not for me. Like,
no, I understand.
I got a kick out of, in the beginning, all the tumbleweed going across, and in the cemetery, the headstones were waving back and forth with the fans going.
Well, I mean, John Wayne set it up too. It was interesting when he set it up and he said, "This is a great show. It's something. And he said it's adult.
Adult Western. Yep.
Yeah, that kind of stuck with me because I was like, okay, what was on TV in 1955 that this
would have been Roy Rogers?
Roy Rogers, Hopalong Cassidy. I think those kind of things were not necessarily your adult Westerns. I'm trying to think of the director who did all those great Westerns like Liberty Vance and those kind of things. But yeah, it was more just, cowboys and Indians. But yeah, this was like quote unquote an adult Western.
Yeah. And I got, you sort of, it does oddly still have that formula of like I wrote, I thought like, I'm not comparing it, but like the way you watch maybe Twilight Zone or the way you watch even like a Star Trek, the original series, where you realize, or maybe I read too much into it. I wondered if they wanted the viewers to realize that there's something going on. The guy who rolls into town, who's all like, I'm going to kill everybody, blah, blah, blah. But he keeps saying, okay, come closer. And then you figure out, like I realized before Marshall Dillon figured it out that, don't let him get close.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, were the writers trying to do that, do you think? Were they trying to make it like, okay, viewers, can you figure it out before we do?
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know if that show was targeted that way or if that's just the way the script happened this time,
Well, and I'm sure that this happens a lot in the show as it progresses, but a lot of the radio show versions of it, they're tragic. They're sad. They don't all have happy endings. It was an adult kind of story that was going through.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense to have this TV show billed as an adult Western because they're not going to deal with just happy-go-lucky, everyone's horse riding and playing guitar and singing. It's going to have some tragedy to it.
I have thought when he got shot, when Marshall Dillon got shot, I was like, is that it? Is the show done? Why do they say it's 600?
20 years? What's happening?
What? He's dead. How does he come back from that?
Well, I thought, because I don't know anything about Gunsmoke or the character, Dillon doesn't mean anything to me. I don't even know the name until you just said it because I don't have any idea. I thought maybe that guy became like the marshal and that show was about him. Because I'm like, the guy got shot. He's dead.
How do you survive that? Is this where we get out of Dodge and all that from? Is that from Gunsmoke?
Yeah, get out of Dodge. Yeah.
Is it? He's also a tall bugger. He's 6'7".
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know who his brother was?
No.
Peter Graves.
Oh.
I could see that.
The old Mission Impossible.
Yeah. But hey, I appreciate you guys watching that. A little bit about Hitchcock. So we also watched Hitchcock Presents. That premiered just a couple of weeks later on October 2nd in 1955, the episode Revenge, which was, Sunday, 9:30 on CBS. Crazy time. And again, I mentioned Hitchcock and the sponsor. It was so cool because similar to the Twilight Zone, later he's at the beginning and end of the episodes, Alfred Hitchcock. And he's always toying with the sponsors now and then, as you can see, even in this first episode. And one of the things I learned doing like research for this all a while ago is that he also filmed those same kind of scenes for the European market. Sometimes even spoken French.
Oh, wow.
Which I've like never seen. They've got to be out there somewhere. That would be really cool to watch. And now again, Hitchcock didn't direct many of the episodes. He did this one, but again, at this time, there was still 39 episodes in a season. 25 and a half, 26 minutes long. I was reading that the original first episode was supposed to be another one he directed called Breakdown, but Hitchcock was enamored with Vera Miles's performance that he moved this episode up to the premiere, which I think was pretty interesting. Yeah. And I'm going to go on a quick side tangent here. Vera Miles is actually still alive.
Oh, wow.
At 93. She was also famously in Psycho, another Hitchcock film, which I just recently watched because of Halloween and everything, and didn't realize the struggles Hitchcock had making that film financially. So it was shot in black and white, and he used the crew of the TV show Alfred Hitchcock Presents in 1959 to 60. That was new to me.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So
she's also in Psycho too.
Yes.
I thought I read, yeah.
And Vera Miles, of course, acted throughout the 60s, 70s, 80s in a lot of drama shows. She was also in, wait for it, the first episode of The Fugitive, Fear in a Desert City. So I thought, well, that's pretty cool. To see how I'm tying everything together here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, enough about me, and now I want to hear you guys talk about it.
Well, I recognize the neighbor in the other trailer from Andy Griffith.
Yep. Francis.
That was kind of cool.
Bouvier, I believe, Aunt B.
Yeah, I think, Aunt B.
Oh, that's Aunt
That
B?
was neat. Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't know that, Peter?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, see, that's the beauty of watching some of these shows from these different areas. You say, oh, well, I know that person, because this was an anthology show. Different
I'd only
cast every
known her
week.
as Aunt B. So to see her in something else was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of got the feel that the main actress in that episode, you could tell she was like I don't know if this is like a Hitchcock girl. I was like, she feels like the kind of actress that he likes, like the actress from Rear Window and
Grace Kelly.
Psycho. Grace Kelly. She's beautiful. So yeah, like that. I could totally see that. I was like in this episode.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was digging it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it probably is because it's Alfred Hitchcock and there's so much history. So I'm already like, I'm watching everything. Why did the woman look at her legs? Why are they showing this car?
Right.
Like what part of this is going to be, play a part in the story later? But
well, even like when the cops were inside, the detectives, lieutenants were inside the trailer, and the one goes back to check things out. I'm like, what's he going to do? Maybe he's the one that did it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was good. I thought it was really well done. He I guess, Brian, to what you said before, like, even though it was 1955, it had a not timeless quality, but you could watch it now and fully appreciate a craftsman, working his work.
He was so good at the anxiety, like building the anxiety in the viewer. Right. Just making you nervous about what's going to happen. Right. Yeah. And again, never showing you like what actually happened, like the danger, like the bath scene is like the only exception to his career. He never showed you the murder. He just showed it after it happened or whatever. Right. Like that was his, like, he thought it was scarier that way. Right.
Right.
And, yeah. And then like when a guy goes to the hotel and he kills the guy, you're like, oh, okay, but it doesn't feel like it's over. I don't really get it. And then they get back in the car and then you're like, oh shit. And then it just fades out and you're like, oh man.
When she said that the first time to make him think that's the guy who killed her, I thought, no, that's too easy.
Yeah.
She's going to be damaged and say to every guy she sees that. Yeah.
It was very good.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting with like another anthology, The Twilight Zone. You talk to anybody, they probably know names of maybe 5 or 6 episodes of The Twilight Zone, you know, To Serve Man, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, Time Enough at Last. But you probably don't know many names of Alfred Hitchcock episodes. And like, I didn't even remember all these. So, but there is one other one I want to point out to you if you get the chance to watch it. You know, it's Hitchcock directed. It's called Lamb to Slaughter. It's a great episode. And again, I'm watching it and there's an actor I recognize. It was Alan Rocky Lane playing a policeman. No spoilers. Do you know who Alan Rocky Lane is?
Mm-mm.
No, that's not familiar.
Well, he was in a lot of B-Western movies in the 40s and 50s, but he's perhaps best known as the voice of Mr. Ed.
Nice.
So it's cool. That's why I love just watching these old shows. First of all, black and white is just it just takes a lot of skill to shoot in black and white and with different makeup and angles and so more things. But yeah, you see people like, oh, like you said, there's Aunt Bee in the trailer. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, there's a couple episodes I hear on the radio drama stuff of Mel Blanc's show. I think it's Mel Blanc's show. Mm-hmm. And the guy who plays Mr. Howell on Gilligan's Island is on
Jim
it
Backus.
all the time.
Well, of course, he was Mr. Magoo.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
It's a riot to hear because like Pan says, I can recognize some of these voices from other later TV shows or movies or whatever, and I'm like, boy, this is way back in 40s and 50s radio stuff. I find it fascinating.
Yeah, thanks for watching because like this is where I live right now. So
well, I wrote that Lamb to Slaughter down because I love that channel that you had these on. I'm going to have to really do some searching on that.
You can go down a rabbit hole, just like with everything else. You know, oh, geez, this is there. Wow.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah, because there's no way we're going to sit through 600 and some episodes of Gunsmoke. But
I get it.
if you give us here's the best episode of like with Alfred Hitchcock, yeah, I'm going to watch that one too. Like I like that idea of like, let's pick a show, pick another show, Fugitive or something else. Like, okay, here's like the best classic episode of season 1, and that could be fun to watch.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
I will certainly send some emails if you'd like.
Now, I can't say that I'd be limited to just 1 or 2 episodes if you say let's watch the Monkees, because I could go from front to back with that one.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Well, before we get off of Hitchcock, I think I've mentioned this on the show years ago, but my favorite Hitchcock movie is Rope. I don't know if any of you have seen that.
I've never seen it. It's on my.
So Jimmy Stewart,
right,
is the main character, and it's all one continuous shot. Now the reels were only 20 minutes, right? So they had to. So he would like go behind someone, and it would go all black, and it would change the reel and then come out. So it's basically like 5 20-minute clips.
Yeah,
or 4. I don't know how long the movie is, right? Like whatever it is, it's not a super long movie. So it's probably 4 reels, 4.5 or something. But it's incredible because again, no edits. It's all just live, like as it happens, and the camera's moving around, all the actors are moving around, it all takes place in this apartment, and it is the most nerve-wracking film I've ever seen. Like you're like, oh my god the whole time. Because like the mystery that's happening, but the actors don't know, right? Like their characters don't know, and so you're just like, oh my god, so good. You have to watch it.
You wrote it down. I wrote it down too. But now that you mentioned it, I might have seen it once. But I think it might be on one of the services. Like I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'm sure I didn't see it.
You definitely got that feel in this first episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. The breakfast sequence where they're talking and eating and putting butter. I mean, that was. You don't do that just on a whim. Like you have to coordinate that to some degree because of the camera angles, and you can't be stuffing your mouth and then, oh my God, you have a line, like I thought that was incredibly natural for that kind of scene like that. And when I was looking up whoever the actor was, the male actor, what was his, do you know what his name is, Pants?
Top of my head, I don't, but yeah, give me a second, obviously.
Well, he has a lot of theater work in his background, and I was like, okay, I could see that. Like that to me felt like a theater scene because I watched it a couple times, just that kitchen scene, watching them eat and just talk, and it's not even a important conversation, but just the level of, I mean, he was going to town on that breakfast and she's like buttering her toast and just, it was good. It was, I like moments like that. So I could, and there's definitely things that you can tell he pulls out. Like he wants that sort of normal quality because he wants to set up this world. Look, this is just a normal thing. Yeah. And then of course, obviously it's going to flip as it goes. So. It's good.
Yeah, let's see. Ralph Meeker.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Broadway, Mr. Roberts and Picnic.
Huh.
Yeah. He also, I don't know if he was in the original cast of Streetcar, but he was eventually in that as well. Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing we watched is Moonlighting.
Oh yeah.
Oh, come on. That was
such
so
a great show.
It's so great. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And it's that first episode really I love it, but it's just an inkling of what they do.
Right.
The couple, like, especially like Mr. Pesto's little things in the office answering the phone. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. And it has everything you just talked about, Pants. It's got actors in it that we've now seen in 50 million other shows.
Yeah.
Her lawyer, the tall blonde thug, was in like Deep Space Nine, Star Trek. Crater Face, right?
Yeah.
Crater Face from Grease. Like, I love all that. And then it had the value things, right? Like, you can clearly see it's 80s TV. Because that fight scene was terrible. It had no music.
Bad.
It had no music.
No.
It was just, the Foley was like, bap, boonk. It was incredible. But you're right, Shay. Like, the relationship between them two, the chemistry between them two is so
oh my gosh,
right there.
From like the first scene together, it's just 100%. Yeah.
That was so much fun to watch. It also was fun to watch, like, so he was always Bruce Willis is usually always the aggressor. Yep. And she's the one that's on the defense, right? Then there's a moment later in the episode where it actually switches. She becomes kind of like the sassy one, and he's the one that's kind of saying, he's trying to be a little serious and he's getting a little annoyed, but then it quickly reverts as well.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just super clever because they're not great actors just yet. He's better than she is in this first, but I think that's her character. She needs to be that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She needs to be a little bit innocent in this.
And I think he pulls it out of her. And then that's when their chemistry just explodes. So good.
Well, and even the scene when they're in the bar and he says, well, come on, I just want to dance with you. Now, in the end, he has an ulterior motive to get the watch back, but there's still that little bit of her surprise, and she lets her defense down a little bit, and then the rest of the show progresses. But there's just that little tender moment in that scene that also lends itself through the action, the comedy, and then this little soft moment for them.
They also have it when they go to sleep at the detective agency because they just got assaulted, and she's like kind of just looking at him, and he's like, "What are you looking at?" It's like, oh, they did really kind of set this up from the first episode that there's some kind of, love-hate thing going on.
Yeah.
I had forgotten so much about this because, I'm looking, it premiered like a 2-hour movie of the week, like on Sunday night, March 3rd, 1985. I remember I watched it because I had no VCR at that time. I watched it as it aired. And as I'm watching it, I remember, he gets stabbed in the back. I remember there's a scene coming up on a clock tower. So it all came back to me. But I loved how it looked. It just looked really 80s. And I mean that in a good way. It just looked really, that's fantastic. And I couldn't believe that there's only like 67 episodes of this. Yeah. And then I'm reading and I'd forgotten, there was all kinds of behind the scenes, behind the scenes, that. But I remember watching it, as it aired at that time because I didn't have a VCR. And it's like, but I haven't seen it in 25, 30 years. I might have seen it once since. And it's like, so it was a great thing to come back to watch this again.
There's one of the later seasons opening episodes where they weren't sure they were coming back. and they got the green light. So then they totally break the fourth wall.
Oh yeah.
And are oh my God, it's hilarious. You can find that little clip on YouTube. It's a riot. They go through a whole music montage, the whole thing, and they're thanking everybody because they really didn't think they were coming back. Oh my God, it's just a riot.
Youngins, Fourth World wasn't created. I mean, breaking the fourth wall wasn't created by Marvel. There's so many people who think She-Hulk and Deadpool. Like, no, Moonlighting did it all the time.
Oh my gosh,
I thought they were going to do it in this episode. There was a line they said something like, "Oh, I forget." It's near the end. They say something, and the two actors are facing each other. I almost thought they were going to look out because
just turn out. Yeah,
but I think that happens in another episode.
Speaking of breaking the fourth wall, Shane, I remember like George Burns did that back in the 50s and 60s at his TV show.
Even Mr. Roper on Three's Company did it. Oh my God, I loved when he would do it. I got such a kick out of it.
Bruce Willis, he was just turning 30 like a few days after this premiered. I looked it up.
She was like 34 or something like that.
Yeah, she was older. But I love that it's almost like they used who they were. Like, she was Sybil Shepherd. She was a model.
Yeah.
They're using that she hasn't been around for a while, right? And he's not your Magnum PI. He's not your, who else was big at that time? Like Miami Vice
Miami Vice. Hunter wasn't.
Right. His hairline's going, he's just a dude. I think that was what was so great and why it worked, because he was just a guy.
And I don't care, love or hate him when he did the whole Bruno music thing album. I love that they incorporate him. He incorporates singing into Moonlighting like crazy, and then it's in Hudson Hawk, and then he did this album thing, and it's like I get a kick out of him singing, and the stuff he does in Moonlighting as the series progresses is just astronomically funny.
Yeah, he reminds me very much of like Michael Keaton, like the way Michael Keaton and Tom Hanks both came from comedy, and then eventually they go off to whatever they do, So yeah,
and got their start on TV like at really decent times. Like, ooh.
Right.
Like Tom Hanks, I remember him from Family Ties. And of course, Bosom Buddies.
Yeah, Family Ties. Yeah, he was on 2 episodes in that, and the one, boy, when he's an alcoholic, boy.
But of course, I forgot Bosom Buddies came first in the 80s.
Yeah. Tom Hanks was on Happy Days, too.
That's right. Oh, man.
I don't know if I remember him on
love
Happy
watching
Days.
old shows. Anyway, I can go on and on. But yeah, I think it's interesting that speaking of the now, where you can almost get anything you want at touch of a button.
Yeah,
Moonlighting is not necessarily one of those shows you can easily get.
That is not easy.
The creator Glenn Caron mentioned, now it's going to be part of the streaming. So good to see that come back on there.
I hope so. It can't come fast enough
because I think the DVDs are out of print.
Oh yeah, for years.
Jerry Seinfeld's mom's in it.
What?
Jerry Seinfeld's mom.
Right.
Yep.
She's maid in the
her
beginning.
assistant.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep.
Some of the great lines: "Do birds fly? Do ducks duck?" It's so stupid, but it's so funny.
Well, there's an episode in the first season where they do like a whole Dr. Seuss, like there's a Chinese man with a mole on his nose, What kind do you suppose? And it's like this whole thing, and it's like, oh my God, it was so great. And then somewhere like maybe the final season or something, there's the Taming of the Shrew episode.
Yes.
That's a classic. There's just so many great parts, and I haven't seen it for so long. I can't wait to watch it.
Man, when that finally gets through, that I'm gonna binge that sucker like nobody's business.
Yeah.
But you have the DVDs though, right, Shane?
Only the first, I have the first set, which is
right.
seasons 1 and 2, and then I have the second set, which is season 3, and that's it. I don't have the others, and they are darn expensive if you even want to attempt to try and buy them, and I do not. I just rewatch the first 3 seasons over and over when I do it.
It also had some good sight gags, like when they get back to her house, and you're looking at Maddie, and off camera, David says, "Hey, you want to hear something weird?" And then when you turn back, the thug is right there behind him. And they did a couple other sight gag things that were kind of funny. I just forgot that it was not Looney Tune-esque, but it was campy. It kind of lent its. So I guess What other kind of detective shows was Heart to Heart on at this time? And
Probably Heart to Heart. Wasn't there
Remington
a
Steele.
Vegas one?
Oh,
Remington
yeah.
Steele. Yeah. There was Hunter, but then there was also, oh my gosh, another one.
They clearly
gonna
wanted to go against the trend of
Sure.
Yeah,
You got to stand out.
right. And they did.
Yeah.
Was what was William Shatner's TV show? TJ Hooker?
TJ Hooker.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis did have a karate chop. I saw he had a Kirk chop when they were fighting. He took the gun. He was like, "Good job." I was like, "There it is, the Kirk chop." So good. I will be watching more of those. I was like smiling from beginning to end.
Yep.
I don't think I've watched them since they were on.
Oh,
Yeah, me neither. There's like,
Yeah.
at this point, over 35 years ago.
Yeah, I loved it.
that's
But
crazy.
I haven't watched them since, but I loved it.
And that's not one that reran very much either after it was done. Not that I remember anyway.
You would think with how
It's like a
popular Bruce Willis got that they would have shown it all the time, but
Probably
Yeah.
another rights thing.
Oh, it's totally the rights thing.
Yeah.
I am 99% sure it's the rights to all the songs they used.
Yeah.
Even though he would only sing or do a little snippet of it, it was just too much. And nobody cares to sit down and figure it out, but now they're finally doing it.
And how about that Al Jarreau theme song?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
Which they don't really have in that first episode, which is kind of how I always tell that it was first played as a movie of the week night thing, because they did the same thing with Buck Rogers, and a few others. Battlestar Galactica got that kind of treatment.
Right.
You can just tell it's first built as that movie of the week, and then it goes into the series.
Good. I'm glad we watched that. I'm probably not
Oh.
going to have to watch more of those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's hilarious. And to lead to say it again, I don't care what anybody says. I will watch Hudson Hawk a couple times a year.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh my God, it's so stupid, but I get such a kick out of it. and it's him and Andy McDowell, and the one guy who just passed away in the last couple of years. I can't remember his name, but they're hilarious in it. And they incorporate a whole song thing. There's just crazy antics. It's a little bit more fantastical, which makes it a little stupider. But yeah, it's worth a watch at least once if you've never seen it. I think anyway, because it's
Stallone is in that.
yeah, it's Bruce Willis being comedic, and as much as I like Die Hard and some other things he's done, I really like when he's comedic. One of his later ones that I like is The Whole Nine Yards
I love that flick.
with Matthew Perry,
Matthew Perry.
and then he shows up on Friends for a couple episodes after that. Then they did the sequel, The Whole 10 Yards, which isn't as good, but it's still funny.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, the first one, that's
yeah, the first one
comedy
was-
gold for him.
Oh my God, yeah, there was such good stuff in that.
Oh,
Totally.
Blind Date. That's what I was trying to think.
I love Blind Date.
I knew there was a movie that I kept thinking Bachelor Party, but that's Tom Hanks.
Yeah, John Larroquette and Kim Basinger.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that one's a riot.
Huh.
I gotta write that one down.
Oh my God. And it's a Blake Edwards film.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Larroquette, man, he's great in that as the jealous boyfriend. Oh my God. Oh.
I forgot to say this about the Alfred Hitchcock Presents, that they're sleeping in separate beds, even though they're on
Yes.
their newlyweds, right?
Yep.
I
Yeah,
was
well,
like,
it's a
oh.
trailer. It's a small trailer.
Well,
Yeah, it's the
why-
50s.
Small trailer. You can why do two beds? You can one
Oh, that's
bed.
true. That's true. Yeah.
It's the 50s on TV.
Well, yeah, it's the 50s and the sponsor.
Right.
I think it was
Yeah.
sponsored by Bristol Myers. It's like they can't have that on the
Right.
Yeah.
Sign of the times.
preaching morality back in that time. Ugh.
Yep. I did notice the same thing, Peter.
So, which of the comics should we talk about? Should we talk about She-Hulk 1? So we read John Byrne's She-Hulk 1. Did anybody read that?
I did not,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay.
No.
I read
But I
that.
forgot.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
I had it. I have it. I bookmarked it in the app, and I completely forgot. I was
Should we
too
save it?
busy watching.
We can save it.
Huh?
Let's save it.
Yeah,
Let's
save it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to read it. Shit, I'm sorry, guys.
That's right. I didn't read Azrael.
Good job.
Oh, you know what?
I forgot. I didn't read any of the books, I guess, and I forgot about that too.
I read
JSA.
I read Sword of Azrael. It's not great.
No, it's not. I started it and I was like, no.
The Joe Quesada artwork is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The story, Denny O'Neil, I was like,
yeah.
By the third issue, I was kind of like, let's get this.
Oh, I wasn't reading all four of them because I remember all four of them not being good.
I stopped
to
at
read.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to get through one.
Yeah,
yes, I gotta have too much homework as it is.
Yeah, no, we don't ever want this to be homework.
Yeah, I got you.
I wanted to read it because we've been talking about it for a while, actually, because we've been bringing up Quesada a number of times in some of these episodes, and it's what I thought was interesting is in the same year he does Ray, and then he does Sword of Azrael, and sure, Sword of Azrael has Kevin Nowlan inking, but there's something in that short amount of time. He went from Ray down here to Sword of Azrael. Like he really upped his game for that second miniseries, because it's not. I find maybe you guys can if you guys know what was going on at the time. So Quesada was never the level of like McFarlane. Liefeld in terms of popularity, right?
Not at that time, no.
Okay.
Not that I remember anyway.
And yet he had a similar energy where I thought, even the way Archie Goodwin talks about him in the introduction to the trade, where he kind of talks about him in a way like he is one of those wave of young new artists, the wave coming in who are different, who have a different energy. And he absolutely did. He had a whole really unique energy, and I think it fits right alongside of like McFarlane and Bertasio and Silvestri. Yeah. I guess he never got the popularity that the other ones did, and yet his artwork, his craftsmanship in those Azrael issues it's really good.
Yeah, and I want to say for a long while, issue 3, I had a hard time finding that.
Was that
back in the day?
Think because of the new costume or something?
I can't even remember why it was hard to find.
Well, that was a question I had for you because I have all the issues, but I'm almost positive I would have never bought this off the stand or when it came out because Azrael, who the hell is Azrael? So I had no idea about this. Of course, then the whole Nightfall came in. I think I might have got the back issues at that time. So did you guys buy it as it came out or later?
I'm 99% sure I bought issue 1 and 2 off the rack, and then I gave up. And then he came to Nightfall, and then I started seeking out. Maybe that was just it because everybody was looking for where Azrael started, and I couldn't find 3 and 4 for a while.
Yeah, I bought them as they came out, and I have all of them still in the original bags and boards.
I bought them as they came out as well.
Yeah. And not to say that it wasn't because of Quesada or anything, because I loved his art. I have a poster hanging on my wall that I had on my kid home bedroom wall. It's Batman and Robin jumping down off of a rooftop with all the villains on fire escapes. And I've had that since it came out, and it's been hanging up in every house or room I've ever been in. Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying it's a terrible story. It was a little dry for a story that dealt with like some kind of not mystical whatever, but the Templars, and he's a sort of he's revenge or an avenger or whatever they say, and they clearly are setting up that this is all hindsight that he eventually is going to take over Batman, because Alfred is constantly like, oh, you remind me of Batman, you're of Bruce Wayne, you're smart, he's smart, but he's got that violent side when he gets taken over by Azrael.
Well, and I'm pretty sure the reason I didn't get issue 3 and 4 right away was reading those first 2 going, well, who the hell cares?
Yeah.
I got it because Batman's going to be in it. I don't really care who this guy is.
It does. Good, man.
I was saying, no, at the time, I'm going to guess that there was no idea whatsoever as far as the PR releases what this was going to mean to Batman, because had it like today, you can't necessarily hide all that stuff that well. That's why for me it was under the radar, and I got it in the back issues at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned Peter about Alfred. I didn't read past one, so I wouldn't necessarily have remembered that. So that's good to know that there was some hints in the actual series.
Yeah.
But as you're buying it, you might not necessarily known that.
Yeah. And Archie Goodwin talked about that in the intro, like when he was talking about the summits, right? The Batman summits that they had, the Superman summits, and they knew they were going to do Nightfall. They knew, in fact, when the first trade was released, that was when Nightfall was coming out. And they wanted to introduce this character, but the only book they could introduce it in was Legends of the Dark Knight. And that was the one that Archie Goodwin was editing. But he was booked up. So they were like, all right, well, then let's just do a miniseries. Let's have Denny O'Neil do it because he gave us Ra's al Ghul and all these,
Oh, okay.
And
I did not know that.
And they knew what they were going to do with this character. They just didn't want to reveal it early.
Okay.
And it does feel very much like, oh, guess what? Oliver Queen has a son. His name's Connor Hawke. Guess what? In a year, he becomes Green Arrow. Oh, guess what? Here's Kyle Rayner, this guy in an alleyway or whatever on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And then he becomes the new Green Lantern. Oh, look, there's this tribe of Amazons and one of them is named Artemis. And it's like, oh, she's going to become the new one. Like there was that whole wave going on.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So,
the 90s. I love the 90s books. This is
cool.
This is what I was reading at the time. Yeah.
You know what's great about this is this was my favorite format for comics, where you had beautiful colors, but the flat matte paper that was like newsprinty but thicker, and it held the ink real nice. And so before they went to glossy, and then you had to like make sure you were reading it at the right angle or you couldn't see anything. Yeah. This was the peak of comic printing, I think, for my personal taste.
I won't disagree with that.
I always liked when whoever, sometime in the mid 90s where the X books, all of a sudden somebody got a hold of computer coloring and there was like lens flare in the design. And they were like, they started to do word balloons with colors and just certain words were colored, and instead of the asterisk for the footnote, it would be like an X for X-Men, and it would be a Spider-Man head for a Spider-Man footnote. It was like, oh my God, you guys are playing way too much, way too many tools, way too many toys. Back off of it. So.
Well, wasn't it that I felt that same way with what did they call it, the Baxter paper in like Legion books and stuff?
Yeah.
I like that too.
Yeah, Baxter books are cool. I used to look forward to those.
Yeah. The first time you're like, "Ooh, wow, this is special? It's on Baxter paper."
It was very white, very white. Some people say it had a glare to it too. I was like, I don't know if I ever really experienced that.
Not like what Brian's talking about after the fact. But oh God, that was horrible.
No.
What were the Marvel books like? It was like reprints or something of British stuff that was on like super expensive fancy paper. Do you remember? It was like right around 1990, 92. What the hell was that called? Kevin,
the Marvel UK line? The Marvel UK line?
No, well, but it wasn't that. It was like Marvel Fanfare. Marvel Fanfare was the title, and I think it was reprinting some British stuff. But it was like, I think that might have been the first book that had like super high quality paper, and that was like pretty expensive when it came out.
Yeah.
Marvel Fanfare was original content. That wasn't reprints.
Well, okay, maybe it was, but it
Michael Golden, and
it did have.
That's the book I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that was Michael Golden, like X-Men and Spider-Man crossover in the first couple issues, and then there was that was all original content. But yeah, that was a high quality book, and touted as so. I think that was part of the direct market sales too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. And maybe it was like the later issues of it that
they might have had,
switched to some high. Because I remember buying a couple just because the colors and stuff when the paper was so pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to buy some of that British reprint stuff.
If you
go ahead.
If you read She-Hulk, there's a story in Marvel Comics Presents 18, like a 4 or 5 page John Byrne She-Hulk story that actually comes out like right before it that I found online. Yeah, just like a little, it's Marvel Comics Presents 18. It came out maybe even like a 4 or 5 months before the first issue. Because at the end of the story, she breaks the fourth wall and she says, I'll see you in a year in my new series. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. But I was trying to, because I
that up.
Yeah, I was like, you know me, I always got to go backwards, and my She-Hulk is Byrne's She-Hulk in the Fantastic Four run.
Oh yeah.
That's, really where I had like 2 issues with the Thing, and then they came back from Secret Wars, and she was a member, and
Yeah.
she was great in that series.
It didn't feel segmented at all. I mean, it like right into it, and she was a great addition to the team.
Yeah, I thought a sort of welcomed addition, because I don't know, maybe I wasn't so much into. Well, I was reading his solo series too, so it was like getting him in the solo series, and then reading her. But there's he does one of the graphic novels with her, Sensational She-Hulk. Then there's that Marvel Comics Presents short story, and then her series. So I actually read.
The Marvel graphic novel came out first.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I remember that. That was with Wyatt Wingfoot, and she was dating Wyatt Wingfoot, and that was the whole. Wasn't it like cockroaches or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think I ever read that.
Yes. Yeah. And the Shield helicarrier, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
and he was really kind of pushing a little bit of cheesecake. I mean, he was getting her naked all the time, and leaning into the bodybuilding thing, during the 80s, because on the cover she's like showing off her muscles. And, So if the Marvel Comics Presents story isn't necessary, but it is another John Byrne.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I didn't remember that. I mean, there's so many things that were in those Marvel Comics Presents. You can't even begin to try to remember all that stuff that was in there.
Yeah.
Some good stuff and some throwaway stuff, but I did not remember that.
Power of the internet and research. Yeah.
Can I say one thing I'd forgotten to mention before about the Hitchcock Presents episode?
Sure.
So, of course, when the show ends, the guy's driving after he's killed the guy, and she says what she says, and you realize something's screwy. And you come back to Hitchcock, and he sort of explains what happens afterwards. Well, that's, of course, to appease the sponsors. So it's like, oh, he got away with murder. Oh, no, he was tried and convicted. So I forgot that that's a big staple of these Hitchcock endings, where he comes back and sort of explains what really happened afterwards. So I thought was kind of.
I like in the beginning of that where he talks about, and I'll be back to explain it for those of you who don't get it. And I'm like,
yes,
ooh, you're really talking down to some people there.
Yeah. Sorry, I just forgot to mention that before, so I want to get that in.
All right. Anybody got anything else?
Oh, just Andor continues to be amazing. So
I have to watch this week's episode. I did not.
I've
I
already
didn't
watched
watch
it
yet either. But that's the best. That's the best Star Wars show so far.
Yeah, I can't figure out
it's
why people
unbelievable.
don't like it or why it's not doing well, because it's fabulous.
Who said it's not doing well?
I keep seeing, people post, they're like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of boring. I'm like, are
people.
you kidding me? It's
the
awesome.
best. It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, this last episode, I won't spoil, but you're just watching, and there's some people, ooh, I know who that person is. Oh, I know that person is.
Nice.
Like, ooh, wow.
I don't did I mention this last time? But Paper Girls is really good.
Really?
Really good.
Okay.
We were, the whole family, we were glued to it, right? Every time we sat down, like the kids wanted to watch it more than Andor. They were just like, can we please?
Really?
We had to burn through Paper Girls before I could get to like a couple of episodes of Andor.
Okay, because I mean, I watched it. I enjoyed it. I guess I was spoiled because I dug the comic book so much more. I just can sort of see why this isn't coming back. I don't mean that as that's awful. It's just it didn't grab me as much as I wanted it to, because I love Brian K. Vaughan, and the story is fantastic and well thought out. I just didn't think the TV show did it justice, without getting too specific, because I'm
Well,
not
I
that
think-
way.
So what I really liked about the show, so it's very different from the comic. Like the story diverges from the comic like almost immediately, right? But the characters are the characters. Like they stayed true to the way they behave in the comic, right? And that it's really what it's about. It's about those four girls and their journey together, whatever that journey is, and it doesn't even matter. But it has cool time travel stuff and other stuff, right? It's just, I think it's very well done, and we were captivated. Now I know that they didn't renew it, but I heard that the producers are shopping it around to try to find a home for it at another network. Whether or not that happens, who knows, right? There's so many shows now they can't make them all, right? But
Yeah.
I feel like it definitely deserved one or two more seasons. Like it was good.
I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, Elon Musk has now finally taken over Twitter. So bye bye.
Yeah, I saw that.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, did he already fire like
Head executives.
that executive and the one was it at she was some kind of like I guess security some she was the one policing and trying to keep fake content and all the other guys off and
We're doomed.
yeah so she's fired.
Let's start a couple websites have started because of something we said. Can somebody please start a new Twitter?
People are now talking about we shouldn't leave because then you're kind of letting them take over that thing, so it's kind of like hang out and whatnot, but I don't know, see what happens.
Oh well. Social
Exactly.
commentary.
We just go back and just text our friends and stop posting online. Like, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I basically only use the internet now for like hobbies and like posting in groups about like this leather thing. How do you get a good dye on your leather thing? Like, I don't, I post on Facebook once in a while, but hardly ever anymore. And it's, I do look at it because I am curious what some friends do that I don't stay in touch with all the time. Cause that whole like active versus passive connection to your friends. Like I do think there's value in like just being aware of what my friends are doing as opposed to like, I don't need to send you a text every week,
day,
to know what's going on. Like I can see what you're doing and go, cool. And I can comment a little bit and so can 50 other people. And then we don't have to be sending 8 million texts all over the place, which we're never going to do. Right. But these platforms are being run by wingnuts. So it's like, okay, how can we do this where it's like, we can have this concept without, the only way is you'd have to pay for it and there'd have to be no ads, right?
Yeah.
Or you need a company like Apple to just pay for it themselves and then there's no ads, because as soon as you have ads, that's when it gets, then they want all your information. If you just want to build a system where people can just talk to each other, it costs money. And so you got to pay for it somehow. But, at this point in my life, would I pay $30 a year for a social media platform that had no ads? I probably would if I knew the people that I liked were also going to do that.
Yeah.
It would be useful. And I don't want Facebook to know more shit about all of us, right? But it's the only place that, people of our generation post anymore,
Yeah. And I was never one to post every time I made a pie, go to dinner, change my underwear, whatever. No.
Exactly. We're all over that collectively. Like, people don't post as much bullshit anymore. It's like more.
Well, they do it. I'm like, are you crazy?
But like, it's one of those things where it's like, we could have a group chat with us. And if something interesting happens that we think each other would care about, we could post the picture and be like, I went for this walk and saw this cool thing today. And then we'd probably be like, yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
But we don't think to do that enough. I don't know.
Maybe we should, and then who knows? Maybe one day it'll be like a forum almost.
The ducks out of the way.
Wait, any thoughts on New York Comic Con to close us out? How was it?
I was there. No, I didn't get sick. I was only there for a very few hours on Saturday. I got to actually see Brian in person for a little while, which is cool.
I did see the picture with you.
And again, the highlight of the con and the highlight of my year so far has been seeing and talking to, mostly listening to, Uncle Sal in person. Good God Almighty, just the nicest guy and the greatest stories. What a storyteller. He just loves to talk. And we talked before Brian got there. I was talking to him about baseball, football, just guy stuff, which I can hold my own with a little bit. But then Brian came in and we just had a great conversation all over the place. We were laughing. I didn't want to leave, but it was like, I kind of like got to leave. I was talking to him for over an hour, 15 minutes, 2 times combined. And
isn't he working? Is he supposed to be working?
See, Kevich was at his table, was signing at his booth with Apple. He just like didn't want to bother with that and so forth. And just one of the funniest parts, he was talking about his home life and his kids, of course. And he said something sort of like, not dirty, but like, and then this woman walked by and said, "Boy, that was a weird conversation to walk into." It was just hysterical.
He did tell this funny story. I guess it happened at the con earlier that day or the day before or whatever. And some guy came up and I might be confusing 2 different stories at once, so you correct me, but I think he said like, he gets asked all the time if he's Alex Ross. Like that happens 10 times a day, whatever. And he told this guy like, no, I'm not. And then the guy didn't believe him. And he's like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but like, I'm not Alex. And then the guy was like, well, you don't have to get mean about it. He's like, I'm not being mean. I'm just telling you, like, you're the one. And then what did he say? He's like, how did the guy put it? Because he's like, are you sure or something? What did he say?
I don't know. It was so weird. It's like, well, why are you lying to me or something like that? It was
yeah. And it was like, Sal was like, I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
I'm pretty sure I'm me and not him.
Yeah. Like I got pictures. Like, do you want to see what he looks like? Signing books? Like, me? Like I'm not him. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
But no, didn't spend any money, didn't buy anything.
Yeah. I talked to Jamal because there was nobody at his table when I walked by. But then after talking for 5 minutes, somebody came up. So then I, excused myself. I did a drive-by to Katie Cook, talked to her for like 12 seconds because she had such a huge line. But I just said hello and she asked me a few questions. And I said, all right, I'm going to go because I feel bad because there's all these people. And I talked to Buzz for a little while. And then again, people came over to his table and I don't want to be blocking people from buying stuff. So that was basically everyone I said hello to.
And we mentioned last time that I was going to sort of dress up for the show. I put on my Phillies hat and jersey and was because it was the day after they won their first game of the playoffs. And I literally got folks saying, go Phillies. It's like, I'm in New York and this is amazing. You go Phillies. Like, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So go Phillies.
Oh, absolutely.
Full circle.
Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for including me. I appreciate it. I will definitely partake in more. But, I'll go do my homework. Let me know what's going on.